Cassava production has been affected by two diseases, mainly Cassava Mosaic in the last 15 years and Cassava brown streak disease in the last 5 years. Cassava brown streak disease, CBSD, affects the entire cassava plant. It can cause loss of root production and quality and can destroy the harvest if cassava roots are left in the ground for over 9 months. Cassava brown streak disease was first localized to coastal regions of East Africa. It is now spreading to the highlands of the countries in Africa. As at now, affected countries include Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, and Democratic Republic of Congo, among others. In some varieties, the loss in crop harvested can be up to 100%. Roots showing CBSD symptoms are not fit for human and animal consumption. The flour is bitter, and affected roots do not get cooked and remain tough.
From the cassava, we get flour that we make food from. But due to this disease, the roots are affected. So we do not get enough to feed the family. Some of the roots you just have to throw.
How is the virus transmitted and how does it spread? Cassava brown streak is believed to be transmitted by insects such as whiteflies.
First evidence of transmission, successful transmission of cassava brown streak virus by whitefly just came in 2005. Previously, there was no information, but speculations. And a number of insects were suspected. Whitefly was one of them, beetles, thrips, and these are insects you find in cassava field. But there was no success at all as far as their transmission, their ability to transmit the virus was concerned. It never happened. So now we know whitefly is one candidate. And I want to stress this. It is one candidate as a vector of cassava brown streak virus. What we are doing at the moment is to go beyond that and find out, are there other insects also responsible for transmission of cassava brown streak to cassava? This is important because before then, the whitefly has been here. The brown streak just came off recent, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion of the disease. So there might be other vectors which also could be transmitting this virus.
It's not a surprise that if you have high whitefly population, then the natural spread in the field also occurs.
While we understand very well how the transmission of cassava mosaic disease is carried out by this same vector, we have very little knowledge how the whitefly is transmitting the cassava brown streak virus. And that is what is going to occupy us now for a while.
Knives used in cutting infected cassava stems also spread the disease when used to cut healthy cassava stems. The disease can also spread when a stem of diseased cassava plant rubs against a stem of a healthy cassava plant, especially during heavy winds. What are the symptoms of the disease? The symptoms of cassava brown streak are known to be elusive, such that at times it is difficult to identify. Symptoms of the disease vary from location and variety to variety. The symptoms of cassava brown streak disease can be observed on leaves, stems, and cassava roots. Some cassava varieties do not show symptoms on leaves nor roots. Other varieties may only show symptoms on leaves and not on roots, while others do not reveal symptoms on leaves but roots only. Some cassava leaves and roots may appear normal and yet affected.
One of the most obvious symptoms of cassava brown streak disease can be found on the mature leaves, and these are usually on the lower part of the plant. They show us yellowing along the secondary veins, the small veins on cassava. Cassava leaves have these large veins, and then there are the small veins. So for brown streak symptoms, the yellowing especially follows the small veins, giving it a feathery kind of look. So the leaf itself, the shape is not affected, the size is not affected, the leaf shape is retained, the leaf size is retained. The only thing that changes is the color. You see yellowing along the small veins of the leaf. With time, the yellowing expands, and sometimes you get the leaf turning almost entirely yellow, and only the green tissue is along the small veins. So the yellowing can cover the whole leaf area. Cassava brown disease symptoms are also expressed on stems, and these appear as brownish wounds, scratch-like brown wounds on the stems, as you can see here. And apparently this is where the name of the disease is derived from. Brown streak, cassava brown streak disease, in reference to these streaks, these scratches that are associated with the cassava brown streak disease. In very sensitive varieties, this can be so severe that the plant begins to die from the shoot tip, leading to drying of the whole plant and eventual collapse of the whole plant. This is what we call technically dieback. So cassava brown streak disease can cause the whole plant to collapse from the tip, and it starts as symptoms on the stems. But the most important symptoms are those that appear on the roots. You can see the signs on the roots. First of all, you get the shape of the root is not the same. It is twisted, but it shrinks, becomes small. But the most obvious sign is when you look inside the white part of the root. That is what you normally eat. You begin to see this kind of brown rotting. Inside is rotten, and when you cut, this is what you see inside. It is rotten, dry and hard, and when you continue to cut, you see this, and it is throughout the whole plant. Can hold it, see that, and this. The whole root is spoiled.
How does CBSD spread?
Cassava brown streak disease is spread by use of infected planting materials, and that's why we have got the high incidence among farmers field, because they don't know how to select for clean planting material. They use infected cuttings, so they spread the disease between farms. That is one of the method of transmission.
We know a lot of material is moving up and down, but our advice is let us stop it so that we see whether we can control some of the movement of some of these diseases.
Planting of susceptible varieties helps build-up of CBSD in the affected countries. Cassava brown streak disease also spreads through variety multiplication centers if the original source of cassava materials were infested, or if the planting materials being distributed are not checked for the presence of CBSD.
They are getting yellowish.
How can we manage and control CBSD?
You have to start with a good, clean planting material. If you start with an infected planting material, then there isn't much we can do. Then your garden, if you have like different pieces of gardens, we encourage them not to use same tools in different plots, because in that process they can also transmit the disease.
So farmers normally, when they look at they only think that when they look at the leaf like this, then they assume that is the affected stool. Yet, even at this stage, the cassava is affected, but it has not reached the worst stage. But it is already affected, and it is not recommended for further planting. You can even prepare to destroy it.
The advice we are giving to the farmers is uproot that plant and throw it away. Because even if the farmer keeps it, they want it to be a source of inoculum of the disease. Because from that plant, the disease will be transmitted to healthy ones. 2, in the end, the roots will all be rotten. So the farmer will not have any benefit of keeping that plant and taking care of it.
Tolerant cassava varieties do exist in some countries, even though some of them have not been consistent in showing tolerance to CBSD. Please contact your extension worker for the tolerant varieties available in your country. Those multiplying cassava planting materials should regularly inspect the field for CBSD using trained personnel. However, research in developing or selecting resistant varieties is currently ongoing in several countries, with some promising results in Tanzania and Mozambique.
In this greenhouse here, we plant susceptible cassava variety, majorly a variety known as TME 204. And then the selected materials which are picked from the field are planted in this greenhouse. After some period of time, like a month, we do what they call normal and reverse grafting. In normal grafting, we place the tolerant varieties which have been selected from the field on top of the susceptible variety, which are CBSD. Then in reverse, we again change the susceptible variety, which has CBSD, is placed on top of the tolerant variety which has been picked from the field. In this case, we are trying to monitor CBSD expression on the leaves, and then in reverse, we are trying to look at, does this virus get to the tubers of the tolerant varieties. That's basically what is happening here.
Through the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister has requested CALI to multiply all the varieties that show tolerance or some degree of resistance to this disease, which the Ministry is going to distribute to the farmers. But at the moment, I must say that we do not have a resistant variety that we can boast of.
This one you can see, this is at the advanced. That is Mosaic. This one is a brown streak.
Yeah, you see there's everything across the veins.
And now here it is advanced.
Cassava brown streak disease to some farmers looks like cassava mosaic virus. Is there a difference?
Symptoms of cassava brown streak disease are quite different from the symptoms caused by cassava mosaic disease. First and foremost, on the leaves, cassava brown streak disease does not cause leaf distortion or leaf twisting or reduction in size of the leaf. Usually the leaf retains its shape. It only has those small lines that are yellow compared to the leaves affected by cassava mosaic disease, which are twisted, which are reduced in size. So that's a clear distinction between the symptoms caused by cassava mosaic disease and cassava brown streak disease. One of the most common symptoms of cassava mosaic disease is stunting. Once the plant is affected by the disease, the leaf area is reduced, the plant fails to manufacture the food that it needs for growing, therefore it remains short, it does not grow, it remains stunted. You can compare this with a plant planted at the same time, but that has not been affected by the disease. It continues to grow, so it's not stunted. Cassava mosaic disease, you usually start from the youngest leaves on the tip of the plant. But symptoms caused by cassava brown streak disease most times start on the mature, lower, older leaves. That gives another difference between the two symptom types. Also, cassava mosaic disease does not cause wounds on the stems. Cassava brown streak causes scratch-like wounds on the stems. Cassava mosaic disease does not cause dry rot or dry wounds in the edible part of the root, the white tissue of the root. Cassava brown streak disease causes symptoms on the roots. You see yellow or brown, hard, rotten parts within tissue that is affected by cassava brown streak disease.
But while waiting for resistant varieties, farmers should use tolerant varieties. Meanwhile, rogue out and destroy all plants showing symptoms. Distribute cassava stems only when confirmed healthy by a trained inspector. Plant only varieties that are tolerant to CBSD and CMD, that is cassava mosaic disease. Farmers should not share cassava planting materials from affected areas. Contact your extension worker to get clean planting materials.